She smiles, but something feels off. Her words are sweet, but her tone cuts like a blade. You tell yourself it's nothing, that maybe you're imagining it. But deep down, you know. You can feel it. She's playing a game, and you're the prize she's already decided she doesn't respect. Most men never realize it until it's too late. They confuse manipulation with affection, control with care, and chaos with chemistry. But the truth is, some women play psychological games so subtle, so emotionally twisted, that even the smartest man can lose himself trying to decode what went wrong. See, when a woman feels power slipping away, she doesn't always confront it head-on. Instead, she tests, she twists, she pulls at your mind until you start doubting your own reality. And the moment you do, she wins, because power in relationships rarely comes from dominance. It comes from perception. And here's what most men don't understand. These games aren't always malicious. Sometimes they're survival mechanisms, emotional weapons shaped by past pain, insecurity, or trauma. But regardless of why they're played, the result is the same. Confusion, emotional exhaustion, and a man who no longer trusts his own instincts. Maybe you've been there, arguing about something you never said, apologizing for things you didn't do, feeling guilty for wanting peace. It's not because you're weak, it's because you care. And that's exactly what makes you vulnerable to the kind of games I'm about to reveal. The mind games women play aren't about winning your heart, they're about controlling your attention. Because in psychology, attention equals validation, and validation equals power. Once she controls how you feel, she doesn't need to control what you do, you'll start doing it yourself. So before you lose yourself trying to love someone who's secretly testing your strength, understand this: awareness is your first weapon. When you recognize the pattern, the spell breaks. This isn't about blaming women, it's about arming men, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, to see through illusion and protect their peace. Because a man who can't see the game always becomes a pawn. Stay with me. What you're about to hear next will expose the 5 darkest mind games that can destroy a man's confidence, one silent manipulation at a time. The first mind game is one of the oldest, the validation trap. It begins quietly. She compliments you, gives you attention, makes you feel like you finally matter to someone. And just when you start to relax, when you start giving her more of yourself, she pulls it away. No explanation, no reason. Just silence. You start wondering, did I do something wrong? You replay every message, every word, every look. You can't focus. You can't think straight. And that's exactly what she wants, your mind to orbit around her approval. Psychologically, this game triggers your dopamine system, the same chemical circuit that addicts chase. She gives you a hit of affection, then withdraws it, creating a craving for her validation. You start working harder to earn back what once came freely, her attention, her warmth, her praise. And here's the dark truth. Once she realizes how much her approval means to you, she'll weaponize it. Suddenly, your worth in her eyes becomes conditional, based on how much you give, how fast you respond, how much you chase. You stop being a man and start becoming a performer. The validation trap is powerful because it plays on your deepest masculine instinct, the desire to prove yourself. Men are built to conquer challenges. So when love becomes a challenge, it hijacks your competitive nature. You want to win her back, not realizing the game was designed for you to lose. Every time she pulls away, your brain screams for closure. You text her again, you explain yourself, you apologize for things you didn't do. You start doing what she wants, thinking it will restore peace. But peace never comes. Because she's not after peace, she's after control. And that's the psychological hook. The more you chase her validation, the more power she feels. The more you lose your emotional balance, the stronger her sense of importance grows. But here's the truth she'll never tell you. Real attraction doesn't need control. Real love doesn't test your sanity to feel secure. A woman who truly values you doesn't play hide and seek with her affection. She builds consistency, not confusion. So remember this. The moment you stop chasing validation, you take back your value. Because when you stop dancing for her attention, she realizes the music no longer controls you. The second mind game is the guilt mirror. And it's one of the most psychologically draining tactics a man can experience. It begins with subtle emotional manipulation, where she flips the narrative and makes you feel responsible for her emotions. You'll hear things like, "You made me feel like this," or "If you really loved me, you'd understand." And slowly, your reality starts bending around her pain. At first, you try to reason with her. You want to make her happy again. You apologize, explain, reassure, but none of it works. Because the game isn't about resolution, it's about reinforcement. Every time you give in, you reinforce the belief that her emotions control your behavior. Psychologists call this emotional conditioning. Over time, your brain learns to associate peace with compliance. You stop expressing what you feel, you start avoiding conflict, and you shrink yourself to keep her calm. And that's when the guilt mirror becomes dangerous, because you begin to lose your identity in the reflection of her emotions. It's a powerful game because it disguises control as vulnerability. She may cry, withdraw, or make you feel like the villain for setting boundaries. And because you care, you fall for it. But here's the brutal truth. Guilt is not love. Guilt is leverage. And anyone who uses it to control you isn't trying to connect. They're trying to dominate emotionally without appearing aggressive. You'll know you're caught in this game when you start apologizing more than you express yourself, when silence becomes safer than honesty, when you walk on eggshells in your own relationship, hoping not to trigger another emotional explosion. But the moment you stop reacting to guilt, the mirror breaks, because manipulation can't survive without reaction. When you stop defending yourself and start holding your ground, something shifts. Her control starts to fade. A man who sets boundaries isn't cruel. He's clear. And clarity is what emotional manipulators fear most, because it exposes their pattern. So if you've ever found yourself questioning your worth just to keep someone else comfortable, remember this. You're not responsible for the emotions others weaponize. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop playing their game. The third mind game is the comparison test, and it's one of the most psychologically cruel tactics a man can face. It starts when she begins subtly, or not so subtly, comparing you to other men. Maybe it's her ex, a coworker, a celebrity, or even a friend. She'll drop a comment like, "He's so confident," or "I wish you were more like that." It's meant to sound innocent, but it's not. It's strategic. What she's doing is planting a seed of insecurity, a quiet whisper in your mind that says, "You're not enough." And that whisper starts to grow. You begin questioning yourself, your looks, your confidence, your success, your masculinity. Suddenly, you're performing again, trying to prove your worth to someone who's already decided to test it. Psychologically, this game works through something called intermittent reinforcement, where she alternates between admiration and criticism. One day she makes you feel like a king. The next, she compares you to someone else, just to see if you'll fight to win her validation back. And when you do, she knows she's in control. Because here's the hidden layer. When a woman uses comparison, she's not trying to inspire you. She's trying to create competition where love should be peace. She knows that men are wired for hierarchy. We instinctively want to earn status, to prove ourselves. And when she triggers that instinct, she gains psychological leverage over your self-image. But what most men don't realize is this. When she compares you to another man, it's not really about you. It's about her insecurity, her craving for emotional reaction, her need to feel desired by creating imbalance. It's a form of power play, a way of reminding you that she could always have better. The trap is in believing that you can outcompete the fantasy she's using against you. You can't, because the moment you play that game, you've already lost your peace, your confidence, and your grounding. A strong man doesn't chase comparison, he eliminates it. He knows that self-worth is not negotiable. And when you stop reacting to those subtle jabs, when you look her in the eye with calm indifference instead of emotional panic, the game collapses. Remember this. A woman who truly values you will never compare you to another man, because she knows no one compares to the one she respects. The fourth mind game is the silent punishment, and it's one of the most psychologically devastating tactics a man can experience. It doesn't involve shouting, insults, or visible drama. It's colder than that. It's the withdrawal of warmth, of attention, of connection, the kind of silence that screams louder than any argument ever could. It usually happens after you've set a boundary or done something she doesn't like. Instead of talking about it, she shuts down, stops texting, pulls away. Her tone turns distant, her eyes indifferent. She leaves you hanging in emotional limbo, knowing your mind will fill the silence with self-blame. And that's the point. The silent treatment isn't about resolution, it's about control. It forces you to feel like the bad guy, like you must fix something you didn't break. It makes you chase closure, apologize first, or surrender your point just to end the tension. Psychologically, this is a form of avoidant manipulation. It triggers anxiety in your attachment system. You start obsessing over what went wrong, desperate to reconnect. But she knows, the longer she withholds affection, the more power she gains. Because silence isn't just absence, it's a message. I control when you feel seen. And most men fall into the trap of chasing the silence. They start over-explaining, over-apologizing, overcompensating, anything to restore her affection. But every time you do, you teach her that withdrawal works, that your peace depends on her mood. The silent punishment is powerful because it's invisible. From the outside, she looks calm, just needs space. But inside the relationship, it's emotional starvation. You're constantly guessing, never grounded, living on the edge of disconnection. The only way to break this pattern is to stop feeding it. When she goes silent, you stay still. You don't beg, you don't chase, you don't react. You hold your ground with quiet strength, because the moment she realizes her silence no longer moves you, the game loses all meaning. Healthy love communicates, toxic power punishes, and no woman who truly respects you will ever make you suffer in silence just to feel powerful. Remember, you teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. If her silence costs you peace, her presence shouldn't feel like safety. The fifth and darkest mind game is the illusion of choice. The one that makes you believe you're in control while every move you make is being subtly guided by her emotional cues. It's when she says, "Do whatever you want," but deep down, you know you can't. It's when she claims to want honesty but punishes you for giving it. It's freedom with invisible chains, and that's what makes it so dangerous. This game preys on your integrity. You think you're choosing, deciding, leading. But every decision has been emotionally framed to lead where she wants it to go. She'll make suggestions sound like your ideas. She'll plant doubts that make you rethink your choices. She'll cry when you pull away, go cold when you get too close, and always find a way to keep you adjusting, like a man dancing around invisible tripwires. Psychologists call this covert control, a subtle form of influence that operates through emotional consequence rather than open demand. It's not what she says that traps you, it's how she makes you feel for disobeying the unspoken rules. You'll notice it when your peace depends on her reaction, when you start overthinking every word, every tone, every move, because one wrong step can reset the entire emotional balance. The illusion of choice destroys a man slowly. It makes him compliant while convincing him he's autonomous. It drains his fire, his edge, his sense of direction, until he's just a reflection of what she emotionally allows him to be. But here's the truth most men never hear. You don't earn peace by submission. You earn it by clarity. The moment you start making choices based on principle instead of reaction, you reclaim your freedom. You'll lose people who only loved the version of you they could control. But you'll find your strength in the silence that follows. Understand this. Emotional freedom isn't about being cold or detached. It's about no longer being played. It's the strength to stay kind but not compliant, to love deeply but not blindly, to lead with empathy, not fear. Because a man who sees through manipulation doesn't become heartless, he becomes unshakable. Now I want to ask you something personal. Have you ever realized too late that someone was playing mind games with you? What opened your eyes? Tell me your answer in the comments below. And if this video spoke to something deep inside you, hit like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs to wake up before it's too late. Would you like me to give this video a viral YouTube title and thumbnail concept next to match the tone and reach?